Today we're getting word from the military that dozens of U.S. soldiers serving in Iraq have been diagnosed with swine flu. All told, 51 soldiers having been treated for the H1N1 virus. So far, all have survived. Another 71 soldiers remain in isolation, suspected of having the virus. The military is now screening all personnel for flu-like symptoms. And just yesterday, Iraqi health officials confirmed their country's first swine flu death. And back in the United States, beginning today, hundreds of people nationwide are rolling up their sleeves and becoming volunteers for the swine flu vaccine trials. Fast-track clinical trials are being conducted at 8 different locations around the U.S., hopefully getting closer to that vaccine that will be ready this October. Joining me from Baltimore is Paul Ritterhoff. Paul just got his trial vaccination this morning at the University of Maryland Medical Center. And I'm also joined by Dr. Robert Salata, Chief of the Division of Infectious Diseases at University Hospital's Case Medical Center in Cleveland. Hi to you both. Robert, I have to start with you. How are you feeling? I'm sorry, Paul. Paul, how are you feeling?
I feel fine. I have a slight soreness in my left arm, which is where the vaccination was, but otherwise I feel fine.
And then I have to ask you the obvious question. Why are you one of those brave people to line up when you really don't know if it's going to work or if it's safe?
Well, I have pretty high confidence that it's safe because influenza is a whole family of viruses, and this is not one that humans have experienced before, but the technique for making the vaccine is the same technique that's been used for the last 40 or 50 years. And the Sanofi Pasteur, who is the manufacturer, has made millions of doses of seasonal influenza vaccine. This is a different strain, but the controls on the manufacturing are quite high, and I wanted to be a part of this effort to learn more about the safety and the effectiveness of this vaccine and how much is needed to provide an effective dose for people.
Robert, I think Paul just stepped out of central casting for a vaccine volunteer.
He sure did. I think he said it well. First of all, it's always important that we look at any new product like this. And as Paul has said, even though we have given millions and millions of vaccines to influenza viruses before, this really constitutes a virus that's different in many ways, to which most of us have not been exposed before.
Well, let's take a look at... let's take a look at the timeline if all things go as hoped with regard to the trials. Trials starting today and continuing, and then in about a week, patients like Paul getting checkups. 3 weeks later, the second shot. Hopefully the results in September, when we'll find out, frankly, what the dosage is and if we need one shot or two, and then fingers crossed, the October deadline, we hit it and the first vaccine is available to everybody.
I think we're still on the timeline, except you should know that of these trials, most plan at least a 6 to 8 month period to enroll all the subjects that they want to. But we'll have sufficient safety and efficacy, that is effectiveness data, by the timeline that you pointed out, Nancy, for us to proceed, especially if we find out the cases are spiking again, and in anticipation of this occurring along with seasonal flu as well. You should know that some of the studies are looking at the timing of this vaccine in relationship to the seasonal flu vaccine as well. Not only what amount will be appropriate to promote an immune response, but will there be interference or additional safety issues when we give 2 vaccines? And
when you talk about sort of bracing ourselves for the infection, there's an article today in the Washington Post about a new wave of virus that could hit the northern hemisphere in a matter of weeks. And from all the reports I get, and I read every day looking at this, you can almost feel this bubble up of concern and an anticipation for the fact that we may get smacked in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think we're
one of the
at
challenges
the point where...
Robert?
Where we're looking at this as a perfect storm, and I do think that the statements have been true. And if you look at the southern hemisphere right now, regarding what they're faced with, they are seeing both seasonal and novel H1N1 together, with the latter predominating.
Paul, when do you go back to see the doctor, and when do you get your next shot?
Well, I get what I'll call a courtesy call in 2 days to check how I'm doing, to make sure that I'm feeling okay. Part of the protocol for this clinical trial is also to maintain a diary of symptoms. Do I feel feverish, malaise, fatigue, or soreness, aches? Do I have a temperature? Everybody gets a thermometer. Everybody gets a little ruler to measure the size of the injection site, should there be anything that is amiss. Then we go back and there's a blood draw, I believe, next at day 8, and then the second, and a series of follow-ups. But the second inoculation is in 3 weeks.
And Paul, as you move forward and you have that second inoculation in 3 weeks, we'd love to keep tabs on you, because you really are, I think, the first face of the importance of human volunteers in something like this, and I applaud you. Paul Ritterhoff, thanks for being with us, and Bob Slata, always a pleasure seeing you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Bet. For more on H1N1 flu vaccines, including a deeper look at the flu vaccine volunteers, you can log on to the swine flu section of msnbc.com.